Uh, Good morning, everybody. Quite simply, when it gets into the area of defining anything or definition, it gets a lot of people into a vortex of trouble. And I've known, being a person that was raised to pay attention to history, just to know where you stand or know where you're at in this country and in this world. I've also known that this country is poor on history and poor on geography and waiting to be told on both. So when we get into definitions, it opens up a bunch of cans of worms that a lot of people are unable to accept. For example, sometimes in discussing just music, when you're a black person and you start to say the word black, that it comes from black, often your education gets looked upon as being an attack. And that's because of the lack of education of who you're talking to. So when we get into the definition of rock and roll, I tell everybody that I have been fortunate to evolve out of DJ culture. Not just with the fantastic DJs that I've worked with, but DJ and playing a record in a household was a way of life since I was 0 and records were around. I've been fortunate to be honed by some of the great DJs of all time in my genre. Hank Shockley and Keith Shockley, right over here, introduced me into the world of records as an amateur then professional. Then Terminator X was in the building, who, Public Enemy's founding DJ. Standing next to DJ Johnny Juice, who's always been also the Public Enemy's 6th member of the Beatles DJ type of thing. And then DJ Lord in the last 13 to 14 years. I've been blessed to be around these manipulators of sound. And I think the expression through sound is what we're talking about, is rock and roll. And once you start getting into educating and letting the attack paranoia wear off, Brian, I tell people all the time, all this comes from the blues in this country, where sometimes a black person who could not express to his slave master, I ain't taking this shit no more, played something against the side of a house because they could not express it with their voice or opinion. And out of that comes the blues. And not just to say that although the instrument comes from the Moors, you know, to say rock and roll is just a bunch of guitars is short-sighting on the history of what it's about in the expression and the future of what it's going to be about. I brought up yesterday at the Grammy Museum, there's going to be a lot of people that say, okay, there goes the fucking neighborhood, these rap guys. But I like to tell you, with my guys, Public Enemy, we've raised the standard to the highest of high art. And have gone in any stadium and arena and building and blew the fucking roof off because people couldn't tell where the sounds came from. This ain't your average everyday little disco rapping group or whatever, or artist. We come from group culture with the elements of DJing, MCing, graffiti and dance are the same elements that work together as strong as a bass player, a drummer, a keyboardist, and a guitarist. That's why the thing that maybe to talk about the future of rock and roll, the future of hip hop is getting rid of all the individualism and bringing back the group effort, because the key is in a group effort to leave the audience AWE struck. Matter of fact, we spell audience AWE, audience, because the whole key in it, no matter what you do, can I go to the spot? Can I watch this thing on stage? Can I do what they're doing on stage? No. And will I leave to come back again? Fuck yeah. And beyond the attitude, I would say that the expression of sound and the historical context is everything of what hip-hop at its highest form is about, because it comes out of the respect of rock and roll, coming out of the respect of rhythm and blues, coming out of the respect of the blues. But you can't start history, you know, with songs by Stevie Winwood and Traffic. You can't start history at your convenient time when you want to start history. You got to go right back to the soul. Maybe the soul starts laying at the bottom of a boat during the Middle Passage. Who knows? But you got to pay attention to where it comes from in order to predict where it's going.